And one of the special privileges that we have at our Rotary Institutes is the opportunity to meet, to talk with, and to listen to some of the top leaders of Rotary International. And today we have the distinct honor of listening to the person at the top, Rotary International President Ian Risley. President Ian would be the first to tell you that he's just an ordinary Rotarian doing the best to serve our organization. And I'd agree with him, except that there's a little more to it than that. As you know, he's basically given up his own life for the last 2+ years and probably for the foreseeable future so that he and we as Rotarians can make a difference in our world. Rotarians, friends, please welcome the leader of the Rotary world, International President Ian Risley.
Thank you very much. That doesn't mean that Darth Vader is going to come out again, does it? Okay, just as well. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Rotary friends, good afternoon. And what a fabulous tree program. I love that, thank you. And I've been delighted at how the plant a tree proposal has been embraced around the Rotary world. I'm delighted. Oops, excuse me. So thank you for that. I feel sort of slightly naked up here. I could have expressed that better. In that I'm the only member of the RI board who doesn't sport a top hat. But I'm a bit disappointed in Director Greg not having provided me with a Lincoln-style top hat. And I want to start with an apology because I have a cold. Now, it's not the same cold that afflicted me in Atlanta, just as well, because that was months ago. And I do blame a combination of the oh, good on Dick. I think, am I correct in saying that Abe Lincoln was 6'4" in the old vernacular? Something like that. Oh, sorry, it's your still vernacular. I don't know why he needed to add that much, but now I feel complete. That's good. Excellent. Sit. Okay. Right. So yes, I have a cold, and I blame it on the strange air conditioning systems you have here in this country, where if it's hot outside, it's got to be freezing inside, and if it's cold outside, you've got to take all your clothes off inside. And it's a combination of that and the aluminium tube of germ incubation, otherwise known as an aeroplane. So I've got a bit of a cough, so forgive me if I'm hard to hear. I'd like to recognise my predecessors here as past president of Rotary International, because they've been an inspiration to me in their own individual ways. Ray Klingensmith, are you here? Where are you, Ray Klingensmith? He's over there. Ray Klingensmith, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Ray's mind is a breeding ground of ideas. And they inspire me to continue with what is, in fact, my natural instinct, which is to think outside the square and to embrace different concepts, never being afraid to embrace or attract change and concern about people not necessarily agreeing with you. Ray, that was the hallmark of your leadership, and it still is. Bravo. What about Ronald D. Burton? Where are you, Ronald? They put the naughty boys in the corner. Good to see. Australians have a very special affection for Ron and Jetta, well, particularly Jetta, but Ron tags along. You know that their convention was in Sydney, and we in fact call them honorary Australians, which is about as big a compliment as we can give. So wonderful to be in your backyard almost, Ron and Jetta. Good to see you. And past President John Jerm, where are you? Thank you, boss. That man was a joy to work for and work with. He epitomises service. I could never hope to have John's grasp of detail, but I'm encouraged to try. And when polio is eradicated, as it will be really soon, there'll be a lot of people to whom the world owes a debt. He's one of them. And very soon, all things being equal, the popcorn king will join them. Mark Daniel Maloney, as the Alabama state slide showed last night, the blinking of Mark's name almost there. We have to be careful of the way we express Mark's position, which I've actually written down here to make sure I get it right. The choice of the nominating committee for president of Rotary International in 2019-20. We assume nothing, so that's it. I believe in continuity in just about everything, and in particular in Rotary. So I've invited Mark in anticipation of the confirmation of his status on the 1st of October next to attend all of the board events as an observer, and I look forward to him being part of the crew from here on. Of course, the start of this Rotary year was a sad time for our organisation with the loss of President-elect Sam, but life goes on. And now we have Barry Rassin with Esther to serve as my successor and your President-elect. Barry obviously has much less time to prepare than normal, and we, all of us collectively, have to provide whatever support is necessary. I talked to Barry just the other day and said, how's it going? And he said, it's like trying to drink from a fire hose. Some of it goes in and some of it goes past, and he's trying real hard, which is great. He's, as you may know, he's from the Bahamas, and although thanks to Hurricane Irma, he may have moved house to Florida by now, either literally or figuratively. But our thoughts are with those on the Gulf Coast, and those who've suffered from Harvey, and those in the Caribbean and Florida who are experiencing the awesome might of Mother Nature at the moment. And it must be a difficult time for such people. And I think of Barry and Esther in particular, because he's got all of this planning to do, all of this work to do, and he's being battered by 150 mile an hour winds plus, so it's difficult for them. But the elevation of Barry and Mark has necessitated some new appointments, and I'm pleased to advise, if you haven't already heard, that the Board of Directors has unanimously endorsed my motion for the person to serve the remaining 2 3/4 years of Barry's term as a trustee of the Rotary Foundation should be past Director Julia Phelps from New Hampshire. Applause for Julia. She's not here, but she'll do a great job. Excuse me. Now, I make absolutely no secret of my wish to provide opportunities to serve to as many of the very capable women Rotarians as possible, to work towards redressing the gender imbalance we have at the very top of our organisation. And hence my nomination of Brenda Cressy and now Julia as trustees. There are a number of outstanding women leaders in Rotary. You have a fine example in past Director Karen Wentz here, and I take it as my responsibility to ensure that everyone's considered equally when it comes to senior appointments, and that includes women, and we need to redress the gender balance we have at the top of our organisation. Now, while I'm on my soapbox, which is a an Australian expression which, come to think of it, mightn't translate too well here. It means talking with passion about something that you're keen on. Let me mention one of the things that we're doing this year to connect with younger people even younger than me. So how do we get the views of younger Rotarians to the board of Rotary International? So I've created an ad hoc presidential advisory committee. That's one of the powerful things you can do when you're president, create committees. Obviously, we've been very successful at creating committees in the past, but I've just added one more, an ad hoc committee. 8 past district governors, 4 men, 4 women, from right around the Rotary world, who are aged in their 30s and 40s. This committee will meet electronically to consider topics of importance that I'll provide to them, and one of their members, a different one each time, will attend our board meetings to present their opinions from the younger group, and they'll stay at the meeting to provide a different, I hesitate to emphasise, non-voting perspective on all of the matters that the board discusses. And apart from getting a fresh and younger perspective to the board, I sincerely hope that this sends a message to younger Rotarians that their views are important and we're interested in what they have to say, because this impacts on one of the most important issues facing Rotary, and that is membership. You know that it's stable in total, and how long have we been talking about 1.2 million Rotarians, but rising in some parts of the world and falling in others, including my country of Australia and the USA. And as I've said before, we must be prepared to embrace different methods to solve a long-standing problem. The Council on Legislation, April last year, gave flexibility to operate clubs almost how it suits those clubs in terms of meeting frequency, times, all of that sort of stuff. Many clubs are perfectly happy operating just the way they do now, and that's great. It suits them, they do meet how they like. The rest of the world, frankly, can't tell them to change what's working for them, and nor should we. It's doing well for them, leave them alone. But if a club or a proposed club wants to try something different, then I applaud that. We've got to be embracing things that are different. One of the things that they're doing with success in the United Kingdom, and the United Kingdom, its membership is a very important issue. They're generating satellite clubs, where groups of usually younger members meet separately, but sometimes together, with the parent club, but in ways that suit them. They don't need the minimum number that's required to start a new club, and their existence doesn't attract the administrative hassle that sometimes chartering a new club does. And this is particularly worthwhile in the UK, where the average age of Rotarians, or the average age of those Rotarians who are prepared to tell us how old they are, which isn't everybody, the average age in Great Britain and Northern Ireland of a Rotarian is 74. That's the average. So you have to say to yourself, there's some elderly folks there. And there can be a real age gap between the clubs and their target market of new members. And satellite clubs can be a really good way of bridging that gap. Another innovation being tried in many parts of the world are Rotary meetings excuse me, without a meal, sometimes immediately after the normal working hours, which is potentially attractive to younger people with family responsibilities. My point here is that if it suits you, try something different. Do not be afraid to try something different. Now, as I'm sure you're all aware, Rotary is a huge organisation. Did I tell you I was an accountant? I think I did. And at the last count, 1,236,554 members, serving in 35,484 clubs in the vast majority of the world. I think it's 220 countries and geographical regions. Now, as an accountant, no, I'm not crying because I'm an accountant, I'm just going As an accountant, I'm very, very fond of numbers. Numbers can transmit. Are there any accountants here, by the way? Look at that aura of intelligence wafting around that. Look at that. That's very impressive. Numbers work because sometimes they can transmit an idea really easily, much more clearly than mere words. But what those numbers don't communicate, we know the size of the organisation, but we don't know who the members are, or more interestingly, what we do as an organisation. And that sort of information is harder to quantify. And that's because Rotary's work is so diverse, and Rotary clubs are so diverse. And that's really good. Diversity is one of our great strengths. As president of Rotary International, I have far less control over what any individual Rotary club does than the president of that club. And so it should be. They're an independent club. I can make suggestions, I can put things into a presidential citation, but it's up to the club to operate how they wish, and that's great. That's how it should be. Because our diversity is our strength. And we've known since the very beginning of our organisation how important diversity of occupation and vocation is. And let's face it, if you think about it, a club jam-packed full of accountants would be a really fun group. But chances are a club with a broader vocational spread would be even more exciting. So that's one of the reasons why our vocational system exists. It's because we represent our community, and that's important. So we really have to ensure that we maintain our diversity wherever possible. There's diversity in particular in two areas, and I've touched on gender already. If membership is important, the opportunity that potential members of our Rotary clubs that are women offer is even greater. Across the world, we're about, I think it's just on 21% of our membership are women. If you think about where our 1.2 million would be without that 21%, it's a frightening thought. The ladies who are members of Rotary who are here, you are most welcome, and I thank you for being part of our organisation. You're very, very important. And what's more, we have to get to the stage where we, as a natural flow, see women in leadership positions. And I was delighted to hear that one state is going to be entirely governed by women. From Rotary perspective, I mean. This is not a political coup. No. And that's terrific. It shows that we're developing as we should be. So gender is an important issue. But so is age. I mentioned Rotary in Great Britain before as having an average age of 74. You just have to think about that a little bit and realise that there's an issue there. We have to make sure it doesn't get to that stage in other developed Rotary countries. You've got to be fairly senior in Japan to be a Rotarian, so we have to make sure that that the membership in places like this is increasingly young and vibrant, replacing ourselves with people who are more energetic even than me, which is saying something. But I'm an accountant. I still operate. Did I tell you? Yes, I did mention I was an accountant. Okay. But I operate an accounting business, but in theory I do. And in fact, I'm never there. So I'm not in a position to sponsor or encourage into my club another accountant because I'm not on site to find such a person. We really need to get to the stage where, as a matter of course, in our clubs, we look at our own classification and we say, we need another accountant. I've been around for a long time, let's bring in another one. I think that's extremely worthwhile. And the trouble is, it seems to me, is that we don't even think about that until we're on the way out. We really need to do it on an ongoing basis because that maintains our diversity, it brings in youth, so we need to do that. Because an organisation, no, a community is much better off if it has a Rotary Club than if it doesn't. I think we should take that as a given, and we should rejoice in the fact that a community that has one or more Rotary clubs is advantaged by having our clubs in existence. And we should celebrate that, we should rejoice that. And therefore, what's important is that our clubs are recognised for the great work that they do. And I want to tell you about a couple of projects that Juliet and I, no, you weren't at the second one, that we have seen in the recent times. And the first one is from southern Sweden in the province of Skåne, where, as you may know, they have a very large and growing population of refugees from Syria, the Middle East, and so on. We see it on the news. We tend not to see it firsthand, most of it. What could one person do to help refugees newly arrived into their environment? One person? Not much. But of course in Rotary, you're more than one person, you're a gathering of people. And the Rotarians in Skåne found something that they could do. They built a shop, in fact a huge warehouse really, to help the refugees as they settle in to their local community. That large warehouse accepted donations of pre-loved, used furniture, clothing, utensils, that sort of thing. Some of it required renovation. Some of the refugees had skills. They were tailors, they were bootmakers, they were carpenters. So they volunteered in this warehouse, renovated the stuff, and they ended up with a large amount of goods available. Then when the refugees are approved for settlement in Sweden, which takes a little while, they help themselves from what they've assisted in developing. It's a win-win-win situation. It takes stuff that the local Swedish folks don't need anymore, renovates it, gives them something meaningful to do, and allows them to help themselves at the end of it. And this is an inspirational effort put in by the Rotary clubs in this town. It's made a huge difference in the lives of the people coming in who have lost everything, and a huge difference in the lives of the Rotarians. A lot to be said for that program, I loved it. Another one was when I was in, and this is not a tourism spiel here, but if you've ever been to the town of Port Macquarie in about, I don't know, a couple of hours north of Sydney, anyone been there? You've been to Port Macquarie? Okay, that man travels a lot. It is just about the prettiest place on the planet. It's got beautiful beaches, friendly folks, the sun always shines, doesn't get too hot, all of that. And I saw two projects there that were absolutely inspirational. One was the lighthouse, which had fallen into disrepair, and the local council didn't want to spend money. But it was naturally right on the headland, and they renovated it. With their own labour, they fixed it up, and it's now a tourist attraction. People come to visit the Rotary Lighthouse, with the appropriate plaques, of course. But the one that really appealed to me were the actions that the local Rotary clubs took to get rid of a problem that occurred at all of their beaches. There were no towers in which the lifeguards could stand or sit to look out to sea. They'd had one drowning and a couple of near misses because from shore they couldn't see far enough. So if there were errant swimmers and surfers, they could get into trouble and not be seen. The council recognised the problem but didn't have the funds to do anything. So what the Rotary clubs did was take charge. So each club did so there's 5 clubs, they did one each, a tower which is about 30 feet up, and a cabin on the top of it with a stair up to it, and there's a spot there where lifeguards can see out. The locals are safer. The visitors, who tend to be the problem because they don't understand how the currents run, they also are safer. The Rotary Club has done a service to the community at a much lower price than otherwise would have been the case. Again, win, 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 because Rotary is involved. And that's what we do as an organisation. That's what we do every day. We make a difference. And I have to say to you that I'm sure I'm not the only one that when someone asks you what is a deceptively simple question, what's Rotary? And the reason a lot of people go, is not because we don't know what Rotary does, but it's really hard to put it into a simple sentence. Often they're fairly glib expressions. I know one of the past governors in our district, when he was asked that question, said, what is Rotary? Well, it's me, it could be you, as a method of grabbing people in off the street virtually. But it's really hard to to quantify what it is that Rotary does. And that's why I'm keen this year, as the governors know, and I hope they're telling the club presidents, I'm really keen for us to know just 2 items of information from every Rotary Club, just 2. And they are the number of dollars that is spent by the Rotary Club on charitable activities. That's pretty simple to do. Chances are your accounts already show that. If you're in doubt, talk to the accountants, I'll tell you. The second one, and in my opinion just as important, are the hours that are put in the name of Rotary by Rotarians, partners of Rotary, Rotaractors, youth exchange students, all of those folks who do charitable activities on behalf and in the name of Rotary. What I'm proposing to do at the end of the year, we add them all together. I could get a fleet of accountants to do this. We take the 35,000 plus submissions from the Rotary clubs of the world, add them together. So we will have 2 figures, the total value, and we'll convert it all to US dollars, the total value of contributions made by clubs, by Rotary, to charities, to charitable activities, and the number of hours. The world will be amazed when we're in a position to tell them what these figures are. They will be astonished. They do not know the value of what we do. Sadly, so far, neither do we. So this will solve that problem. And I'm looking forward to renting a rooftop and a large megaphone and telling the world what it is that Rotary does. Actually, we've got a slightly more sophisticated communication plan arranged than that. And I think that's really important because the world deserves to know what it is that we do. And it's X number of $1 billion, and it will be, and X number of mega million man hours. I think they'll be surprised. Frankly, maybe some Rotarians will be surprised too, because we make a difference. It's a good theme. Why didn't I think of that? Rotary, making a difference. That's what we do. Because that's what we do every single day. We make a difference to the beneficiaries of our great programs, but don't forget, really important, we make a difference to ourselves as well. We're better people because we're Rotarians. So looking forward to the rest of the year ahead, to you joining with me in Rotary making a difference. Thank you.